little bit on Google, a little bit on Microsoft. Today is Apple's day. There's actually 5 big technology companies out there, and Apple is one of the big 5. And chances are, some people probably have some Apple products, or if they're not using them, they're probably familiar with them. We're picking up a little static, so I'm not sure, Kevin, if you can see where that might be coming from, and just monitor that for me. Okay, appreciate that. Okay. All right, so Apple is based in Cupertino. We're going to go through a little bit of how Apple got to be where they are, and then we're going to take a look at what Apple is. Kevin, by the way, is on our GetSetUp TA team. He's going to be helping monitor things as we go through the sessions today. And we have another TA, Emma, with us today, who's going to be available, it looks like, too. By revenue, Apple is actually the largest technology company in the world. Okay, and so obviously they have a lot of influence on what we do when it comes to technology. They're one of the big 5. The big 5 are Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, and Amazon. Okay, so those are the big 5. Now, Apple's #1 product is the iPhone, and they don't break it out specifically, but it's estimated it accounted for about half of their total revenue. So Apple's future is really tied a lot to the iPhone as a product. Now, it's not like they don't make a lot of money on other stuff they do as well. They obviously do. It's just that the iPhone is such a big product that it gives them a lot of capabilities to do a lot of things. I'm going to move some things around on my screen here so I have a little easier time viewing people and seeing if anybody raises their hand or has a question. Okay, there we go. I think that works better. Okay. So there's movies that have been made about Apple. I don't know if anybody has ever seen the movie. Wave, raise your hand, give me your reaction. There's the movie Steve Jobs, which is really kind of an interesting movie to watch. And then there's another one that has a lot to do with Apple called Pirates of Silicon Valley. Great movies if you're interested in watching a little bit of technology history. I don't know if there's
Bob,
any.
there are a couple of books, and I read them, and sometimes I wish I hadn't. The real person, yes, I think it was by his daughter, and it was not fun to read.
Yeah, Steve Jobs is another type of manager completely. In case you thought anything about him, the biographies on him portray him as not the kindest person in the world lots of times, and so sometimes that's what it takes to break a lot of rules and break technology. But yeah, but it's an interesting biography just the same, and the movie is pretty realistic to it as well, pretty true to the biography. It's on Netflix now. Pirates of Silicon Valley, I couldn't find out if that was available anywhere, but you might have to just rent it if you're interested. Hey, we're probably all older than Apple. Okay, Apple was founded in 1976. Okay, and it was incorporated in 1977 by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. And Wozniak was credited widely with having done a lot of the work inventing the first Apple II product, which started selling in 1977. There's a picture of it. Their business really started in a garage in Silicon Valley. So that's where they started their business, was in a garage. And the Apple II became the best-selling computer. At the time, there wasn't much in the way from IBM or Microsoft. And so the computers that were out there were things like from Tandy and other places that had a few things that were out there too. So there were different kinds of computers, and Apple II became really popular. I think I had an Apple II that I had bought for my kids. I wish I had held on to it because now they're collectibles. They go on eBay for quite a bit. Okay, In December of 1979, there was a visit by Steve Jobs and some Apple employees to a facility in Palo Alto, run by Xerox. Xerox, you might have heard of, right? They were a really big company. They were involved in a lot of technologies, and they had something called the Palo Alto Research Center, Xerox PARC. Anybody in Silicon Valley history knows Xerox PARC. It was just really well known. They did a lot of research, they did a lot of things, and Xerox had invented what was called the graphic user interface, which is what we use on all computers today. Before that, you had to type in everything. It was all text-based. If you wanted to do something, you typed it in. And Xerox took the mouse, which had been invented a little while before, but they created a visual, tool where people could click on things and access computer functions by using menus and graphical icons. As a result of that, Steve Jobs started a project called Lisa, which was named for his daughter, and it wasn't going really well. So at the time, he got pushed off the Lisa and he went to another division of Apple called the Macintosh division. Now, during all this time, Apple was still selling a lot of Apple IIs. That's where they made most of their money. But Lisa was a complete disaster commercially. It never went over. Okay. Apple decided to launch a product called the Macintosh. Okay, this is a picture of the Macintosh that was launched. For those of you that were around in 1984 and know the book 1984, there was a Super Bowl commercial, where Apple, showed them breaking, the barriers, and it was produced by Ridley Scott, who's a really well-known director now and does a lot of directing and producing. But the Macintosh had some problems. They tried to keep it at about $1,000. And for $1,000, you got a computer with not 128 megabytes, but 128 kilobytes of RAM, really small. In order to make it functional, people had this really spend about $2,500 on this computer. And this was in early 1980s. This was, I think, if houses, were selling for, $30,000 to $50,000 at that time. And so $2,500 on a computer was a lot of money. John Sculley had been brought in to run Apple, and there was a power struggle, and Steve Jobs resigned from Apple in 1985 to found a computer company called Next.